r/AskReddit. What black market did kids at your school run? A kid in my school used to sell stupid amounts of porn tapes for $10. We found out later that his dad had paid for some porn channels and I guess he never noticed his son had them open in his room. He would buy empty tapes and just hit record until the tapes were full. I know I bought at least 10 of them. This was in the 90s. That guy was making a shit ton of money. He would bring a backpack full of tapes almost every day and leave school with it empty. Easily he was making $200 a day when he emptied his bag. Edit. Thanks guys. Now every time someone mentions emptying a bag in any situation I'll remember all your masturbation jokes. They will come in handy for sure. At my school ate all sweets out of the vending machines and replaced them with healthy snacks. In the local town there was a sweet shop where you could buy a kilo of mixed sweets for £5. So every week I would go there and buy 1 pound of small paper bags and spend the Sunday night before school repackaging them all ready for the week ahead. Come Monday I would go into school and load my bag up every day selling the bags for 50p. G-rated version of repacking and selling drugs. Apple laptops in middle school. Some had iTunes. Some didn't, and the kids wanted it so I apparently was the only one who knew how to transfer the installer with my USB. I put it on everyone's laptop for gifts, favors, etc. in return. Got caught by the sub that day. I told her it was my flash drive, I could do what I wanted with it. And that's how I got my second detention of my life. Edit. Gifts were typical middle schooler shit. Yu-Gi-Oh cards, fruit snacks, best food trades during lunch, gain in popularity and hang out with the cool people. Obviously they were taking advantage of me but I didn't mind. When I was in the 6th grade, a teacher sold candy in between classes at marked up rates. A student decided to undercut her. That put an end to all candy sales. Today I learned the school system hates the free market. Classic example of big business legislating small business out of the market. You could even say it was a textbook example. These little game coupons that our teacher gave out for winning class quiz games. Right when people were starting to get scanners printers in their own homes, some kid made copies of his coupons and sold or traded them to other students. Edit. Since I have some people asking what the coupons could be traded for, it was usually a piece of candy or a pencil with a fun print or something similar. I think the kids ended up getting caught like 2 weeks into the scheme. Edit 2. A lot of people are comparing this to Diary of a Wimpy Kid, which I've heard of but never read before. I think kids are just clever and do this kind of thing on their own because a lot of people in the replies had similar things happen in their own schools as well. I don't know if this is where the kid got his idea or not, but this may have been before those books came out. And that's how you first learned about inflation. In a similar vein, our high school had homework passes redeemable across all classes. You could use them as either one free pass for a homework assignment or 1 day delay on a large report. They even had a void message if copied. The teachers got them from the principal at the beginning of each quarter and they passed them out with wild abandon to anyone showing interest in class. The market was flooded. I'd buy them from kids for $2 each. Then I'd wait. At the end of the quarter larger reports would be due. Rich kids would buy them back from me for $25 to $50 each. I once made $370 in the last 5 days of the quarter. Whatever I earned, I typically only use a total of $15 to $20 to buy the next wave of homework passes. The rest was mine to keep. It all started with a single 75-cent investment, and that was the only bit of money I ever paid from my own pocket to keep it going. MP3s and CDRs were just becoming available. A guy I knew made a killing on mixed CDs. Every week he circulated forms to fill out, where you selected the songs you wanted on the CD. The newest hits were on the top, and changed weekly. The rest of his library filled the rest of the form, and there was a space for requests. He'd deliver your disc the following week. He seriously made bank for a couple years until everybody started getting their own songs from LimeWire or whatever. I don't know what he's doing now, 20 years later, but I don't doubt he's successful. Edit. Just as a bit of an aside, since a few responses have mentioned LimeWire, when this guy started doing it in high school the only real avenues for music sharing were Usenet groups and IRC. Apart from the 20 minutes before the morning bell rang where everyone crowded around the front of the school being an open-air drug market, there were always dice tournaments. The rules were 2 people put down X amount of money on a game. Then both people rolled 2 dice at the same time. Whoever got 7 or 11 first won the money. The winners of the first rounds would play each other for the amount of money they won in previous games. This went on until the bell rang, or it was broken up by teachers, school administrators. Things often continued in the afternoon after school let out. So many people got detention and suspended for repeat gambling. Looking back, it was hilariously stupid how much money was won and lost on a game of pure luck, and the sheer number of people who got in trouble for it. Yes, I was one of them. You guys were legit playing street craps in school, LMAO. Marbles were big at my primary school. Real big. It got to the stage where they were only allowed for 3 months a year, as we would no longer discuss anything but the game we had the make we wanted to pay for. That was marble season. Now you could buy a big bag of cat's eyes from the supermarket, but they wouldn't get you far. To play the high stakes games, you needed a spect egg, a glitter bomb, a tidal wave or something exotic, but those suckers were pricey. Us poor kids couldn't afford those things, so we secretly gambled our marbles through the year, so when marble season opened, we had amassed enough marbles to really be ahead of the game. Being caught with marbles outside of marble season was bad. Real bad. One kid got 5 strokes of the cane. This being so, it was a big risk to hide in the shadows of the trees and sling those little glass balls about. Not only did it hone your skills for the season start, but you got good at taking the shot and then acting nonchalant. Marbles were currency. You could trade lunches with them or buy time on playground equipment. There was a good reason they banned marbles at my school. We turned it into some sort of mafia shit. I ran it. For a few spare years in elementary, books got banned in the classroom. Not blacklisted books, but literally books in general. They were far too distracting, even though most kids read when done with work, etc. I started smuggling books to school and peddling them out to kids. It started out innocently. I had loads of Hank the Cowdog books that I was super into, and I hid them in my desk and I loaned them to close friends when asked. But soon, the entire class knew, and that spread to the school. I became a full-time book smuggler. I had a system where there was a 2-week borrowing limit, kept a log of who, what book, when. Ran a teensy little library for myself, basically, and I made sure these kids were treating the books fairly. If anything came back damaged, they were banned from borrowing. Kept this up until middle school, which was considerably less totalitarian. I used to deal in whiteboard markers for teachers in high school. One teacher had a tendency to hoard them, leaving none for other teachers. I would take markers from him and provide them to other teachers in need. While there was no formal payment, I was given a little bit more leniency at times. For example, requests to leave the classroom for a moment, etc. Once the marker would start squealing on the whiteboard because it was almost empty, I'd get teachers giving me a nod as if to say, "You got the goods." I'd then supply them with the marker color of their choosing, usually black. It was actually a lot of fun, and I never heard teachers talk about my systems or chastise me for taking markers. Locker accessories such as carpets and magnets. Carpets? How big were your lockers? Only a few hundred square feet. The fireplace was really disappointing because it was only gas. I used to bang my head on the chandelier till I bought out my friend's locker above and built an extension. Gas masks. I live in Kharkiv, Ukraine, near a forest, and there is an abandoned military base in this forest. When I studied at school, there was nothing except old calendars on the walls and gas masks. Almost new, in good condition, with bags, even with some filters. So, once the brave kids went there and brought some, everyone started asking them for more. So, they started going there regularly to sell these gas masks later at school. It went on until military came back to this base. It was like 10 years ago, and I still have my mask. Edit. The base has been abandoned since early mid-1990s, if anyone's curious. Not sure if it counts as at school, but a classmate of mine ran an underage sex ring for several years. Her mother was a realtor and she would schedule appointments for the multiple girls that worked for her in vacant houses she had access to. When she was found out, nothing happened because several of their clients were prominent members of the community, several teachers, several firemen, the sheriff, and the mayor. It was all quietly made go away. My brother was assigned office duty $5 to remove an absence, $20 or higher to change a grade. He made a killing until a girl tatted him out after he wouldn't help her. They wanted to expel him, but it was worked out that he would be tutored in the library for the last 2 months before graduation and he could not walk. He didn't give a shit. The girl, well, let's just say she got hers from a few girls who weren't happy. She only spent a few days in the hospital. The school triple passworded everything and office duty and study halls were done away with #change. Still to this day, if someone meets me and asks if I'm his brother, they say how he saved so many people. In our district, 7 absences in a marking period meant F's in all classes. Had a guy who used to sell cookies. Really good cookies at that. Dumb policy made it so kids can't run little businesses through school, primarily to combat drug sale. It didn't help. He had to start selling cookies like a drug dealer to keep going. Cops were called and they confiscated his Tupperwares of cookies. He still sold cookies for a year after that. Now we have graduated.